Hello, welcome to my vlog, Bid's Outdoor Adventures. Thank you for joining me. Today's video is a continuation of my previous video, which was exploring bike riding Fort DeSoto Park. If you remember where it left off, and I hope you've watched it, but the previous video left off where I was in the campground. I had just gone through the campground. This particular video picks up where that one leaves off. I'll be leaving the campground and exploring the other parts of Fort DeSoto that we haven't seen yet. There's still a lot to see, so come join me, and I hope you enjoy the video. Directly across from the campground entrance is this white area underneath the trees that's used primarily as overflow parking for boat trailers. And it's used for that because the space within the individual campsites is very limited. I mentioned in the previous video that the park wasn't in the most pristine of condition. There were palm fronds and branches strewn about all over the place. But that was because less than 2 weeks earlier, Hurricane Debbie had gone churning up the coast, bringing high winds and rains. And the park was still in the process of getting cleaned up. If you look to the left there, you can see the field was flooded. And you can still see ponding on the trail right here. It's not that the park was in bad shape, mind you, but it was just looking a little ragged around the edges, kind of like all our yards do when a big summer storm passes through. And as I was filming this, there were crews out picking things up and cutting the grass, so they were getting it back into shape. So this is the Fort DeSoto boat ramp. As you can see, it's a fairly large ramp, lots of parking, and that's because Fort DeSoto is a very, very popular place to launch your boat. Being on the very southern tip of Pinellas County, you can launch your boat here, stay inshore in the bay, puts around the islands out there, or you can head through that cut way out there and go out into the Gulf. As a consequence, they built this huge boat ramp, multi-slip, I don't know, I think it's 15 or 20 boat ramps. Each bay can handle 2 or 3 boats launching at the same time. This is the Bay Pier, one of two piers in the fort. This one's 500 feet long, and it's at this location where you can buy a ticket to board a ferry that'll take you out to Egmont Key, a large island in the mouth of Tampa Bay, an island that has a lot of things to explore in its own right. As you might be able to guess, I am standing in front of the dog park. Two big runs here, off-leash areas, one for big dogs and one for small dogs. So Rover can run free. The fort was built to protect the mouth of Tampa Bay from invading enemy ships. There's far too much history to talk about here, but there is a room inside the fort that does a very good job of both explaining the history and showing pictures from that period. I'm standing in the parking lot of the lot that adjoins both the fort, which you see there, and the Gulf Pier, the big pier here at Fort DeSoto. And all this vegetation in the distance there on the other side of those cars, back from 1900 to say mid-1940s, did not exist. And in its place were buildings that looked like that. This whole area was an army barracks housing an entire battalion. I don't know if that's the proper term, but there was a whole city here of buildings, barracks and quartermasters and stores and kitchens, you name it. They were here first part of the 1900s. This brick pathway and the corresponding curbs are part of the original construction of the fort, built way back in the Spanish-American War in the late 1890s. It was discovered and unearthed, but that's original brick. Now the brick pillars you see here, those are actual reconstructions, but they are located in exactly the same place that the original brick footers would have been placed to build to support rather the building that was on top of it. And the building that was here was quartermaster supply. It was a big 10-room building, and it stored all the fort's food. The Gulf Pier is 1,000 feet long and sticks straight out into the Gulf of Mexico. It is a very popular place with fishermen, both of the human kind and of the avian kind, as you see here with this snowy egret trying to sneak in and grab a quick meal from somebody's bait bucket. And while I was there, I saw these two brown spots in the water that turned out to be manatees.